appreciate the acceptance that I've had over these last 2 years, because I thoroughly enjoy being here. Thank you. My name is Leland Weatherston. I was born in, and this is not going to be long because I've got a bunch. I was born and raised in Rexburg, Idaho, and a year after I graduated from high school, I joined the Air Force, and after a year in school at Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi, I was assigned to go to Japan. And so it was in the spring, in March, and so on my way to Japan, I stopped home and got married. And then left my wife there because she had 6 more weeks of high school to do. And then she was able to join me in August of that year, so in Japan. After the Air Force, I went back to Rexburg and graduated from Ricks College, and then came down here to go to Utah State. And I had been able to get a commercial pilot's license, and so I was kind of anticipating, working for an airline and this sort of thing. So, but then my wife and I, we were having a growth in our family, and we just decided we didn't want to go to the big city. We thought that this would be a better place to raise our family. So I got a job at Logan Manufacturing, and I'm sure most of you know what that was, and I worked for them for 16 years as a welder. And so that's essentially what I have. My wife passed away 5 years ago, and but I've got 8 children. I've got 26 grandchildren and 23 great-grandchildren. So, and my daughter here, Kyoko, lives here in Smithfield. I have a son in Smithfield. I have a son in North Logan, and a son in Preston, Idaho. So I have half my children around me that I am able to see all the time. Well, another son is in Rexburg, and a son down near Provo, a daughter in Arizona, and a daughter in North Carolina. So, at any rate, I don't know what else to tell you. I've been interested in poetry and inspiring stories because my mother was. She kept a notebook when she was a student in school and collected poetry and readings, stories for most of her life. And so that's where my interest came from. And I haven't memorized most of them, so what I'd like to do is read them. I think I can hopefully do a good job and not stumble over my words and stuff. And even to the point where I'd like to read my comment in between each one. Now the first few are kind of serious, considering the many things that are happening in the world. I think the first one is appropriate. God give us men a time like this demands. Strong minds, great hearts, true faith, and ready hands. men whom the lust of office does not kill, men whom the spoils of office cannot buy, men who possess opinions and a will, men who have honor, men who will not lie, men who can stand before a demagogue and scorn his treacherous flatteries without winking, tall men, sun-crowned, who live above the fog, in public duty and in private thinking. For while the rabble, with their thumb-worn creeds and their large professions and their little deeds, weeps, wrong rules the land, and waiting justice sleeps. You know,
And Leland, who wrote that?
do you remember who wrote that?
If I knew, I wrote it, I included it at somewhere.
No, I didn't include that. Can you tell I'm nervous? I'm not scared. I'm just a little bit nervous. You know, we live in a world of judgment and criticism. And these are some of the thoughts President Theodore Roosevelt had about it back in 1910. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who actually strives to do the deed, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring to do greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. You sometimes it takes a great deal of inner strength just to survive. President Nelson Mandela felt that remembering this poem helped him survive many years as a political prisoner. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
William Ernest Henley.
Did?
William
That was-
Ernest Henley.
William Ernest Henley.
Because we learned it in school, I remember
Is
memorizing.
that where you learned it?
That's where I learned
And
it.
you remember it?
And I remembered it. I can say it to this day because I had to practice all the time.
Oh my God, I can just remember the first two
I
lines.
can't remember what I did 5 minutes ago.
And you know, there are times when judgment and criticism becomes hatred. This is a poem called The Cold Within. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in dark and bitter cold. Each possessed a stick of wood, or so the story's told. Their dying fire in need of logs, but the first man held his back. For of the faces round the fire, he noticed one was black. The next one looked across the way, saw one not of his church, and he could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third one sat in tattered clothes, he gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? The rich man just sat back and thought of wealth he had in store, and keeping all that he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight, for he saw in his stick of wood a chance to spite the white. And the last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain, giving just to those who gave was how he played the game. Their sticks held tight in death's still hands was proof enough of sin. They did not die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. There is, of course, another side to life. There are things that are important to help us be happy. This is called You Never Know by Helen Marshall. You never know when someone may catch a dream from you. You never know when a little word or something you may do may open up a window of the mind that seeks the light. The way you live may not matter at all, but you never know, it might. And just in case it could be that another's life through you might possibly change for the better with a broader, brighter view. It seems it might be worth a try at pointing the way to the right. Of course, it may not matter at all, but then again, it might. Life's not really complicated. It's as simple as can be. I've thought it out and tried it, and it's been that way for me. First, you've got to welcome other folks whose paths may cross your own, because maybe they have joys to share, or maybe they're alone. Then you've got to watch out for yourself so you can get along, but be careful. If you watch too hard, things start to all go wrong. And remember that there is no use in crying or complaining, because the way that ruins sunshine, why, it might as well be raining. Then if something lonely happens and you can't help feeling blue, it's good to help somebody else, because that'll help you too. So be happy and remember, it's as clear as day and night. Life's not really complicated. when you learn to live it right. This is called Disenchantment. She was a phantom of delight when first she gleamed upon my sight. Softly I quoted Wordsworth while she came and sat across the aisle. But then she slowly rouged her lips and smoothed her skirt about her hips and stooped and tightened up her hose and powdered well her cheeks and nose and tightened down her waist and felt from loop to loop about her belt and buffed her nails and with earnest care and patted, poked, and puffed her hair and pulled her shoulder straps in place and rearranged some frontal lace and put her brows and lashes right and pulled her collar up a mite and rubbed her teeth and then her rings and set her and reached inside and did some things and set her turban more askew. And then you asked me, was she through? I did not learn. The reason why was that then so far as she went was I. Mom and Dad at the game. They claim the sexes are the same, but check them at a football game. He notes the gain of every yard. She worries that they hit too hard. They drop the ball and how he grumbles. She pities everyone who fumbles. He finds the halftime show a bore. She'd like the band to play some more. Girls twirl, he smiles, forgets to scold. She wonders if their legs are cold. 2 minutes, there's the pass complete. A touchdown made, he's on his feet. That's it, he cries, there goes the gun. Now watch our boys go wild. We won. Why must she think at such an hour of their boys crying in the shower? He criticized her puddings and found fault with all her cake. He wished she'd make such biscuits as his mother used to make. She didn't wash the dishes, she didn't make a stew, nor even mend his stockings as his mother used to do. His mother had 6 children, but by night her work was done. His wife was always grudging, and yet had only one. His mother was well dressed. His wife could be so too, if she would only manage as his mother used to do. Ah well, she wasn't perfect, but she tried to do her best, until she thought at length her time had come to take a rest. So one day, when the same harangue went through, she just turned around and boxed his ears as his mother used to do. An old Chinese gentleman. Old Chinese gentleman have 7 sons, from oldest down to youngest. One day, old Chinese gentleman come and say, "Oh, so, I ask question, who push outhouse in a river?" His sons, they say nothing. Old Chinese gentleman say, "Oh, so, I ask once again, who push outhouse in a liver?" His sons, they say nothing. Old Chinese gentleman say, "Ah, so, I tell you story of old country. old country, United States of America. Father of country, George Washington. One day, George Washington's father come and say, "Ah, so, who chopped down cherry tree?" George Washington say, "Father, cannot tell lie. I chopped down cherry tree." George Washington's father say, "Ah, so, for telling truth, you not be punished." Now, I ask once again, who push outhouse in liver? His youngest son say, "Father, cannot tell lie. I push outhouse in liver." Ah, so. Father, when George Washington tell truth, he not be punished? Old Chinese gentleman say, "Ah, so. George Washington's father not in cherry tree."